Okay, so welcome back to this second part of this lab. So uh, in this lab, we really want to do candidate registration. That is, for any student who wants to vie, they can be able to register in order to vie for a particular position. So that is really what we want to look into. Other than that, we're going to learn some important skills here. One of them being using the for each, using the PHP for each loop to print a database data or table data, something like that. We're also going to see how to use the select statement in PHP. That is how to pick data from there, and maybe many other things. Now, before we do that, we need to finish up on we need to create a page for Vi. We need to create a page for Vi, and we change this link to vi.php. This in here. So to do that, I'll just select everything in the index.php page and copy, Control C, then Control N to open a new sheet, Control V to paste, Control S to save, and I want to call this Vi, just VIE. Then I select PHP preprocessor, hypertext preprocessor, hypertext markup language now. Where are you? PHP. That one. Then I'll click on save, just that way. Okay, good. So once we have that, we can change the link here on index to be vi.php. So I'll just find vi. So right now we're just copying everything. We are copying everything, but I'll show you how to I'll show you how it's done in real case scenarios. So let's change this from index to vi.php. Let me just delete this. So this is supposed to be vi.php. Then I'll save it. And come now to our index, refresh it, then click on vi. So it takes us to vi.php. So it's working. Okay, so let's go back now to vi. That is what we want to edit. Now on this vi, what we really want to do is to create a form that an individual can use to really be able to register for the election. So what we're going to do, let's just change this a little bit here. Instead of dashboard, you can just say here register to Vi, something like that. We can leave welcome blah 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 to be just that. So I've just saved it, refresh. Okay, so we have register to Vi. So what I want to do now is to take the code for the whole of this. So take the code for all of that, then I delete whatever is inside, so that I just remain with the outer row. Then inside that particular row, is that a row? Yes, it's a row. Inside this particular row, I can be able to create a form there. So to do that, I'm just gonna copy the whole of this code from this div here. See, we say this is where our body will go. So I just want to pick the whole of this, the whole of that up to there, copy, then I'll paste it just below there, paste. So if I save it as it is, then go and refresh here, then we have two of this. We just want to remove the information here. We can begin with this div here, this div that has registered to Vi and welcome, blah blah blah. We get rid of it. We have another div here that gives the icon, the home icon. So let me just save and refresh so that you see. So now I've removed that. So I want to remove this. So to remove that, I delete this particular icon div. So I just delete it, then I save it, then I refresh. So that is also gone. So now I need to remove this download report. Where are you? We can see here breadcomp report, download report. We can just delete that div. Whoop. And if I save it, whoop, then that also disappears. So that's what I wanted to remain with, really. I needed to remain with just this thing. Then inside it, I can be able to put up, what do we call it? I can be able to put up the form for registration, the registration form for buying. Okay, we also have some divs here. This div and this div is what was holding, let me show you. It was what was holding this here and holding this one here. So you can see, like, this row has been divided into 6 columns. So that's why you can see it is column 6. So it's dividing this row, this is the row, dividing it into 6 columns. But for us, we just want a single column. So we're gonna get rid of this, whatever is here, so that we just remain with a single row. So of course we won't see anything if we refresh, but I just want you to understand that that is what we've done. So really, our form will go here. So form goes here. Why am I doing? Okay, so in HTML, the comment is supposed to be done like this. Then you end it up with dash dash and greater than sign, like that. Okay, so the form is going to go there. Now for the form again, we don't want to begin from scratch. We want to pick up the form from the login form. So here is the login form. We can see that the login form begins from here. Please log into what? This div, then this one, this div here, hpanel. So it has the form. You can see the form is here. So we just want to pick up this form, and then we work with it. So we just want to pick up from here. So we just pick up from there all the way to this div. Is that correct? Okay. Let me see which line 180. So I can just begin from there, then to this div, please log in. So I can just copy it, Control P. Then I can come to vi here, then I can paste it. The indentation is going to be affected a little bit. So I'm just going to select everything that I've just pasted. Then where? Oh, this one. Okay. So just select everything, then I indent it. Let me see, it's supposed to be indented up to, yes, up to there. So now it's okay. You can see that div, and this one. Okay, and this div being closed here. Okay, so now it's cool now. So if I save it and refresh our vi, then we have that particular form. So now we begin by editing whatever we do not want. So the first thing we remove maybe is this one. Maybe we can say register to vi here. Okay. Echo self, that is okay. Post, that is okay. ID, we want to call it vi form, just like that. Okay. We want our form really to have drop down. Drop down here. It should be a drop down list to select the election. Then here a drop down list maybe to select the position. So that is what we want. Then a register button. So that is what we want. So to do that, let's see. We have a form group there. So here we want to change this for election. Then here we say election. Then for the type here, we won't have this because it's going to be a select statement. So we can just go ahead and delete this line. So we delete that. So it's going to be a select statement. So select and select. Okay. Then for the select, we give it a name, and the name is election. We can also give it an ID, and the ID is also election. So the select is going to have some what do we call it, some options. Maybe I can just put one for now. I can just put one option so that we have something. Option, the option normally has a value, a mandatory value. This is what will go to the database, for example 1, and then this is what the user will see, maybe August election. So this is just an example. And then end option. So maybe this is August 8th election, something like that. So we can just copy the same in this next form group. Copy, then we replace this one here, paste, then we change this now to position. So position, here position, this one position, and this one position. Okay, position, for example, president. That. And then the errors, we can have the errors. So this is the Y success. You can let it be like that. Y success, Y error. Can print the error there if we have any error. So Y, good. Then type submit, that is okay. For the ID, we can call it Y. What did we call the form? Y form, okay. So ID for the submit button can be Y, the name can be Y, then the value can be register, like that. Just that. Then you can delete this button. We do not need this button here. Then we can save our work, go back and refresh. Okay. Wow, see, it looks a little bit fine. Okay, but so far I think we have what we wanted. Register to Y, we have a drop down here, we have a drop down here, and we have the register button. So I think we have, doesn't look very nice because it's like this select hasn't been formatted in CSS. We can do that later, but for now let's just focus on finishing this up. Okay, so now reason as to why I've not entered a lot of data here on the election and on the president, like the and the position, like the other positions, is because really we are supposed to retrieve this data from the database. You remember in our database we created a table for election and a table for position. So for election here, it's here. It has the ID, the name, the description, start date, and end date. So we're just going to enter the election manually but generally we are supposed to also create a portal for the admin to be able to create an election, like a rerun, for example, and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to click insert here, and then maybe oh, okay. Let's go back to the structure of this table. We have the ID, we have the name, we have the description, we have when the election will start, when it will end. I'm just thinking of other information that might be crucial for an election. For example, whether the election is active, whether it is active or inactive. So I'm just thinking of, and also maybe the registration date, starting when they can start to register to vie, and the deadline for the registration for vying. Anyway, we can enter that much later. But for now, at least let's have one more column at the very end. So to add a column, of course, you come here to add here, then you enter the number of columns you want. We just want one, then add. We want to call this active. This active will be an integer. It will have 0 or 1. If it has 0, no, if it has 1, it means the election is active. If it has 0, it means it's inactive. So we can just put that on the comment here. Whether the election is active or inactive. So inactive 0, then active is what we're saying. We want the value to be 1. So let us save it. Okay, so now I can insert. Okay, so sorry about that. We had a power outage. So now. So we need to insert an election in this particular table. We're just doing it manually. So for example, we have the 8th August 2022 general election. Then here we have some description, constitution, blah blah blah. So we can leave that. Remember, for the start date and the end date, we just for the start date and the end date, we made it an integer, and I'm going to tell you why later. But for now, we're just going to leave it blank. Then it will have a 0. Then we want to put a 1 here on active, so that it can be an active election. Okay. Then here we can have maybe a past election, maybe 8th August 2017, 8th August 2017 general election. Then for here we can just put 0, or just leave it blank. It's going to be 0 anyway. So we can save this and come to browse. So now we have the 2 elections. We have the 2 elections, so we can just have those 2. I think that's enough. Okay, then for the position, we already inserted the positions, so that's good enough. So now we just go ahead and pull this data from the database and print it on that particular, on this particular form. So how to do that? We can just go ahead and copy the code in the login.php. So we can copy the PHP part. We can just copy this, then we can edit it. It's going to be better that way, because that one was also retrieving data from the database. So you can just delete what we do not want. Okay, so let me go at the very top and paste. Just paste this here. So the session has already been started. The session has already been started, so I'm just gonna select that and delete. Logged in, so we have the database connection, which is this one, so we can also delete this one. My functions, yeah, we can include my functions. Okay, so what if is set post, so our button is called vi, so if that has been submitted, not really, I think I'm a bit confused. We can just leave this for now. We're gonna come back to this, but what I wanted is we pick this select statement. We pick this select statement, this one here, this one, up to where, and these three steps here. So you can just copy. We can copy that. Then we can go down now to, we can go down to here. So this is where we want to use that PHP. So we can just put the PHP tag. So PHP, then I can paste that code. Then we can edit this code just a bit. Okay, so these are the 3 steps for retrieving data from the database. So an SQL statement, we want to retrieve, for this one we want to retrieve from the election table. So from the election table, where on the election table we have active, where active is equals to 1. So active is equals to, you can remove that and we just put a 1. So if it's a 0, it's not gonna be picked. For the connection, what did we call, is it DB connect? Logged, this one, yeah, it's DB connect. So for logged in, it's DB connect, so that one is okay. So DB connect SQL, that is okay. Then here we now want to retrieve, and we want to call this, for example, election, my SQLi fetch a SOC results, which is this. Okay, I start something there. Okay, so for now we want to search on my SQ PHP MySQL, MySQLi for each. So let me see, W3 schools. Okay. So here, I'm gonna fetch a SOC. Let me just see, object-oriented way and the procedural way. This is what we want. Okay. So here, SQLi free results, free connection. It doesn't have for each. How come? Okay. Okay, so it doesn't have the for each. This example, because maybe they're just retrieving data for a single person, which is what they're printing here. But we can just do it. So how to do it is here. Here we can do a for each statement. So for each looks like this. Or maybe before that we can print this selection array using the print r, so that we can just confirm that we have it. Does it have this? Can't remember. Election. Okay, we just want to see how it looks like. Let me just cut this for a minute. We want to see what has been retrieved, how it looks like. Hope it's gonna print it. Save it, and then refresh here on Vi. Did anything come up? It didn't. Print error. Print underscore in PHP. I'm gonna find out. Yeah, it has that. It has this. I wanted it to print the array, so it's not printing. Print election, because this is supposed to be an array. The results is supposed to be an array. Star from election where active is equals to 1. DB connects the statement, SQLi fetch a sock. Just a moment, I do a PHP tag here and do print r. Then election. And save it. Go back here, refresh. Nothing. So something is not working correctly here. What might that be? I'm trying to find out. Let me remove the where and see. Save it. Refresh. Not yet. Is it the connection then? DB connect. Election. Save it. Refresh. All right. DB connect. Okay, so I'm just trying to find out what the problem might be. Should be working as it is. Let me see. I do echo. Save it. Refresh. I have it. So PHP is working. So something is not working from here, and I think maybe it might be this. Let me replace that with this. Let's try and find out whether it's gonna work. Undo. Okay, so we want to change, or we can just do here DB connect. DB connect is equals to, paste it. I'm just doing the connection again. Maybe that's the problem. Then I refresh. Okay, now it's working. So I think the problem might have been that this DB connect variable, we are not able to get it from up here. I'm not sure why. because we've required this. And therefore, we are supposed to be able to access DB Connect down there. We are supposed to be able to access it, but somehow we cannot be able to access it. Okay, so let's just leave that for now. I'm going to sort it later. But for now, we just wanted really to make sure that we are able to retrieve the data. And indeed, we've seen with the print R here, election, we can see that we are indeed picking the ID of the election one, the name, 8th August, description, start date, end date, active. So we are able to pick that one. Okay, so now we want to loop through this data, but this is just one. I'm just wondering, there's something I'm not doing right. PHP retrieve data from SQL. Okay, good. Select data with my SQLi. OOP, we are doing the procedural way. Now, I don't want to use while. I want to use for each. I want to use for each. Okay. Okay, can just check this one. Am I supposed to do fetch array instead of which so? Okay, let me just try and loop around and see whether that will work. So how to do so? Let me just delete the whole of this. So here we're gonna do for each and do for each like that. And then here we do election as we need another variable to hold it. Election as we can call it elect or something like that. Then we want to, what do we want to do? We want to print the option. So what we want to do is to print the option value. The value should be, this is how we do it, elect that way. I'm supposed to use another one. It's gonna be tricky. I'm supposed to use single quotes again, but it's already inside single quotes. Hey, so it's gonna be tricky. Let me see how we can do this. Anyway, let me just end this option like that. So here we can end this PHP. We can end this PHP here, and then we begin it here. PHP. So that one is for closing this one. For closing this for each. Like that. And then instead of having echo, we can remove this echo from here. And then you can have this as double quotes. Then we can do echo inside here. We can do a PHP here. Echo PHP echo, and then we can do that. Can have a space here. So elect, and then here we want the ID. We want to pick the ID. We want to pick the ID, which is the value 1. And then after that, we need to close that PHP that way. Then we also do another PHP here to echo. So let me just copy this PHP code here. Copy, paste, and this time here we just want to echo the name of the election. So that is what the user will see. That is what the user will see. So I've struggled here a little bit, but I just want to take you through over it again. So here we're just using the for each to say that we want to access every element of the array in this variable called elect. So remember, this is an associative array. So it's just like we are saving this associative array to this new variable. Then, of course, because it's an associative array, when we want to pick up the ID, then we have to write the name of that particular position. Similarly here, we're also doing that. So remember here, we are supposed to do where active is equals to 1. So active is supposed to be equals to 1, like that. Okay, so not sure whether it's gonna work. Let's see. Refresh. We have an error. Illegal string offset ID. Illegal string. Offset name. So there's a problem on this line. PHP echo elect. Hi. Something is not working right. I need to find out what. For each record as data. There's something that I'm not doing correctly. I can't find out. Can't seem to be able to find out. Let's have a look at this example. MySQL query row array while for each row as row. Not really. Let me try and find another one. Which array? Okay, just a moment. Okay, so I think I found out the problem, and the problem was that the syntax that I'm using here is not really the one that I'm supposed to be using. If I'm to use the for each, here I'm supposed to use my SQLi fetch all, like that. Then here, after doing the results, I do my SQLi underscore assoc, like that. So that was the problem, and I'm glad that I found it out. So if we just do that, then this will work. So let me just save the code, and if I come back to the page and refresh, so now we have that. We have the 8th August. If I remove the where clause here, where active is equals to 1, I save, I refresh, then we have 2 elections. But remember, we just want 1 election for now. So we're just gonna undo to get back to that, and then we save. So we are supposed to do the same thing we're supposed to do the same thing for the positions. So I'm just gonna copy the whole of this code, copy, then come here in the select statement and paste it. Let me delete this. I hope the DB connect above is gonna work for this one too. So we want to select from position, like that. And we don't need the where clause. Okay, everything okay. And this we can change to position. Then this is supposed to be position. Then this is supposed to be, we can change it to just post. This one gonna be post. This one here is gonna be post. I think for the position we also had the ID and the name, and that's what we want. So after doing that, we just click on save. We come back here and refresh. Okay, and now we should have all the positions. So they can select. Here they can only select one because that's the only one that is active. And they can select a position, then they can click on register. So let's now work on the bit of picking up the data up there. So our button is called Vi. So let's just scroll all the way. Okay. So here, we have if is set post Vi. We want to create 2 variables, one for the election, just want the election ID and the position ID. Position ID. So that's what we are picking really. For this, we can initialize them to 0. We can initialize them to 0. Then as any other user data, we can validate them. So we can first pick them. So we change this to election ID. This one to position ID. Position ID. Email, password, the name, what did we call it? We did call it election, that's select one. And this one we called it position. We can verify that by scrolling down to the form. So the form is here. Yes, we called this one election, and we call this one position. So that's okay. Okay, we'll go back. So we can sanitize. So we can change this to, let me see if I can be able to change both of them. Election ID. So there's a way you can change multiple variable names at the same time, rather than replace and find, rather than using the replace and find. But I can't remember it. I'm gonna look for it and maybe share it with you next time, so that it doesn't become very tedious to change each variable when you copy paste. Okay, so we don't need this. Okay, what else do we need? We also need to check, of course, if they are integers, because really, because if they're not integers, then that's a problem, because we only want, you see, a user can be able to change here. They can click on inspect, and they can be able to change here on the value. If I let me see, let me expand this. The position one is better because it has more. Select. Good. So you can see, where is it? Okay, here. So you can see here the value is 1. The value is 1 for president. The value is 2 for vice president, because we're printing the ID from the database. But the user can be able to edit this and put their own even code to attack your database or something. So if they do that and they choose president and they click register, then the value that is going to be picked by your code is this value, SAFAFA. So we don't want that. So that's why you need to check if it's an integer. So you can use an if statement to do that. So is int, that's the function to check. So election ID and is int position ID. So here we just want to say not if it's not. So not. Then we don't want to use and, we want to use or. So we're just gonna put that or is not. So if they are not, then we can exit, and we can also give them an error. So I think we had error position, a variable called error position. We can create error. Did you create? Okay, let me just create them here. Error underscore position is equals to error underscore election. Okay, so okay, I think like I'm just gonna separate this, and let's just do error underscore position is equals to, and we can enter some value here, unexpected. error occurred. Please try again. Because really this is the hacker, so any other user for this error, for any other user this error really will not occur. So let me just paste that. Let me just separate these two for the position and the election. So we have that, and we have this one for the election. So we change this to, error election. Good, just like that. So if they're not integers, the code is going to exit, meaning that the next lines of PHP, they're not going to be executed. So that is what it means by exit. Okay, so now once we have them, we now want to save them. So we want to save them in we had election, we had position, we had candidates. We want to save that data in the candidate table. So let's look at the structure to remind ourselves. So we need to save the user ID, the position they're vying for, and the election they're vying for. So that is what we want to do. Okay. So how to do that? What we're having here is a select. So we can delete this. We can delete this because what we want is to save the data to the database. You can also delete this and this one. Okay, so now we want to say save the data to the database, like that. So to do that, we can go back and refer on the registration sign up page. We can find the insert statement here, which we can use. So it's here. Did we connect query? Okay, if it's true, good. Okay, so this is what we want. We're just gonna copy this, and then we bring it here on vi. Good. This is called candidates table. Okay, so insert into candidates. Okay, and what we want to insert is user ID, user underscore ID, comma, space, position underscore ID, comma, space, and election ID. Just those three. Then here, all of them are integers. So the user ID, we get it from here. Did we save the user ID from logged in? When we were logging in, login. Good. Good. So we created a session for the user ID when we were logging in. It's called session ID. That one. So we can just copy that when we come here. Then here we can create a variable called user underscore ID is equals to that session variable. Oh, we didn't copy the whole of it. Okay, like that. Then now we can come here and put user underscore ID, comma, then the variable position underscore ID, comma, space, then election ID. Election underscore ID, like that. Okay, so once we have that, the next thing is to execute using the query statement, MySQLi query. and the DB connect. So query that, then if it's successful, then it's going to print out, we want it to print out this. You have successfully, successfully registered. Okay, or something like that. Otherwise, we want to say there's an error and print the error there. Okay, so that's all we need to do at this particular point. Let me save it. Then I want us to print the success and error down here, because I'm not sure we are printing it on the form. It should be here. Okay, so if we set this is supposed to be success, like that, echo success, and this other one I think it's just error, a variable called error. Let's go up and see. Okay. Oh, this one actually, it was it was an array, but we can just let it be just that error like that, just error like that. So even for this one, instead of having specific variables, we can also save it on the error variable. Good. And then here, when you're creating the variables, you can call this success, and this one just error. Okay, so this variable will store any error that occurs. So let me save. We go back to our page and refresh. Okay, so we can be able to select. So far, our table does not have anything, our candidate table. So just want to see whether it's going to be populated. Maybe before we populate it, we can also add another field here, just to capture the time. We've not used that one. To capture the time stamp on when this particular user registered to vie for that position. So we can come here to structure, and then after structure, we can come to add one, then go. So I told you ours is an ad hoc. So we can call it time. It's an ad hoc system, so we're just designing on the go as ideas come into our mind. So we just want to pick timestamp. So a timestamp normally is the number of seconds since, I think, 1st January 1970. So normally it can be able to tell us the exact second when they register, timestamp. So when you do that, it's just got out of field. So if I click save, so if we look at the structure now, we have this time, and the then it is timestamp. I'm not sure. Change. I'm not sure whether there's something else we're supposed to change. Default. Good. Under default here, yeah, I was forgetting this. Under default here, we're supposed to select this current timestamp and save. So that if a user registers, it's going to just save the timestamp here. I'm going to show you how to convert that timestamp into a human readable time when we'll be telling the user exactly when they registered. Okay, so now we can select the election, then we select the position, maybe president, then register and see. Okay, so we have an error. Undefined index election in line 24. So line 24. Have I misspelled this? Election position. Let's go down and check on the form. We go down to the form here, to the form here. Oh yeah, I misspelled this one. So it's supposed to be election, like that. Good. So let's save it. And let's refresh this. Okay, let's click register again. Just a blank. Did it exit? Let's see whether we have something in our database. No, it didn't save. Nothing in our database. What might be the problem? The problem might be up there now. Okay, wow, today, what's happening today? A lot of problems. Okay, let's try and find out where the problem is. Because we are not even reaching here. Are we exiting somewhere? Is not an integer. That's when we exit. Let me just try that without exiting. Are we going to get an error message? Let me refresh. Let me save. Unexpected error occurred. Yet we still have, you have successfully registered. Okay, let's see. Good. Indeed, we've been able to register. So one of this, either this or this, is not working correctly. Which one is it? Election underscore ID, position underscore ID. I'm just trying to find out if I've misspelled anything. Is not an integer. So one of them is being executed. Maybe I can put several ends there to see which one among these two is being executed. So I'm just gonna save it. Then I'm gonna come here, refresh. Then I'm gonna register again. Okay, so the one that is being executed is this one. This one, election ID. So let's find out the value here. You can just inspect, right click, and then inspect. We see the value. Oh, option, the value is 1. It's okay, the value is 1. So how come that is not being taken in as an integer? You can see the value here, it's a 1. So how come that? Okay, so we need to sort that out before we continue. So let's just comment our code up to here so that we don't save the data to the database anymore. So far I think we have 2. Again, this is an error which we are going to sort shortly, but you can see now that this person is able to vie more than once. Their user ID is 1, and they vied for the same position in the same election more than once, which is not correct. It's not supposed to happen. Okay, so we just want to sort this error out. So maybe what we can do is to echo, we can echo election ID here. So echo is a great tool to troubleshoot your code. So let me save it, then refresh. Oh, it's a 1. So how come if it's a 1, how come this is not an integer? I don't get it. Election underscore ID. Sometimes just go to delete, then you copy and you paste. Let me remove the many ends. Let me just change this to election. Save it, reload, register again. So doing that, this variable let me see, election ID, position ID, initialize it to 0. Election position. Hi. Okay, we can put this up there before the sanitization. Just after picking them here and see what happens just there. Refresh, register. Is still happening. We have another one called is number. This is not working. Is it is num? Oh, that was not working. I'm wondering why. Election, the ID here is an integer. How come this error is still occurring? I'm really unable to understand why. Okay, let's just surrender for now on this one. How we surrender to just comment it and hope the user won't change it. Let's just leave it for now because we are unable to sort it out. Okay, because it's a 1, yet being caught on that condition, it's not supposed to be happening. Okay, so here we're also supposed to use the select statement to check before we save. We check whether this user has registered for that position in that election. So we need to check that before we perform this, before we save the data to the database. So to do that, we need to use the select statement. So we can just use the select statement in the login page, the one we had copied earlier. The 3 steps here. Good, this one. So we can copy this. Then you come here to vi, just here. Can comment and say check whether the student has already registered for this election in any other position, but for this particular election. So we just want to paste this code and we want to select star from candidate, where the user ID is equals to the user ID So this user ID, we just want to check. And uh, candidates and the election ID and the election underscore ID is equals to election ID. So we have a function, a MySQL function called MySQL count or something. Count. Let's find it. Okay. Kuna count na kuna numbers. Okay, let's find out this one. It's just to find out the number of rows that have been returned. The number of rows that have been returned. MySQL num rows returns the number of rows in a result set. So if it returns, if there's nothing that matches that query, it returns 0. If there's something that matches, if it's 1, it returns 1. If there are 2 matches, it returns number 2. So that is what this does. MySQL num rows. MySQL num rows. So you see, we just equate this MySQLi query, the results, we return it here MySQLi num rows. So here we want to say check if the data, check if a row has been found. So let's just say found. So here we want to say, let's call this row row. Then we want to say MySQL num underscore num rows, this one, just like that. So this one will return the number of rows, So right now I want to use one of the I want to use this variable success just to print the number of rows that is returned by this. So to do that, I'll just initialize that variable success to row, like that. So we're just copying whatever value is here to here, and what will happen is that down here we are printing the success message. Where are you? Here. If success is set, echo just below the submit button, just above the submit button here. So we are printing success. So let's save this. Then we go to our we go here to our browser and refresh. Oh, maybe I can reload. Then I can click on register so that that code can be executed. And you can see that we have 2 here, which is very correct, because indeed we have in our database we have two queries that match that, 2 rows that match that, with the user ID of 11 and the election ID of 11. So that is really what we wanted to do. So going forward, we just want to go back there and do an if statement. So we just want to say, so I'm gonna get rid of this and just say if row is greater than 0, if it is greater than 0, then we want to update the error. We want to update the error message, and the error message should say something like, you have already registered. You have already registered for a position. you have already registered for a position. What else can we say to be more helpful? You have already registered for a position. I'm thinking. Okay, maybe later on we can maybe advise them to, if they want to vie for another position instead of this one, we can give an option to delete this particular position and maybe re-register for another one. So we just want to say that else we want this to be executed, whatever we've just commented here. So else we want this to be executed. We want to save the data to the database. So that is exactly what we want. If the rows are greater than 0, it means this guy has already registered. Otherwise, for this selection for a particular position. Otherwise, we want to save it. So let's save this and see how it works. Refresh and then register. Okay, so we can see that we have an error message. An error message which says you have already registered for this position. We can make the error message to be a little bit, when we end this paragraph here, just make it color red. It is not a very good way of doing it. We're supposed to use class. We create a class error somewhere in CSS, then we can just call it. But here I'm just using inline CSS, which is not very nice. Okay, so let's go back here, refresh, then I register again. Okay, now my paragraphs look a little bit better. Okay, so that is really how I want to finish this particular. Let's even try another. Let's try another, for example, vice president, another seat. Register. Again, you still can't register because you already registered to be a president. Okay, so now let's find out if any other person is able to register for this. So that's important for testing. So we can just log out, then log in with a different person. In our user table, we have Mary here. The password is the same for all of them. So just gonna enter the email and log in, and then click on Vi. Okay, so we want to see if Mary can also vie for the president seat. So let's just click. So far, if we come to the election table, not election, but candidate table, we only have user ID 1. So we want to see if we're going to add user ID 2 here so that they can be able to vie. And even before we do that, because this guy had registered twice, let's just delete this. Let's just delete this. He was able to register twice because we were not checking, but now we have it. So let's just delete that entry before Mary registers for the same position. So let's just click on register. Okay, and we have that. You have successfully registered. So let's click on browse, and indeed we can see that the user ID now for Mary, which is number 2, is there. Position ID, election ID is there. And you notice that anytime you delete an entry, in your table, then the auto incremented ID will not start from the previous one, but it will skip that particular number that you just deleted. So that's why the ID here is 3, and that should not affect the working of our system in any way. So we're just going to leave it as it is. We've tested with that one. We can also test with a different position. So let's find another candidate, another person here who wants to buy. Maybe John. Copy. we paste that email address. The password is 1234. We buy, and then we select a different position, maybe vice president. Register. You have successfully tried to register again. You have already registered for a position. Okay, if we come to candidates, then we have this guy with a user ID of 3, but the position this time is 2, and position 2 here you can see is the vice president. So that's how we know. So really our registration form here for vying is working correctly, and that is great. Now I wanted to show you that, and it's very important, and that's how I'll end. But before I end this, I want to give you an assignment. You remember when we were creating the sign up form here, this is the sign up form. Let me see, where are we saving the data to the database? So here we're doing the insert here inside this else. If there's no error, then we save it. What else? I think just those two. So just use either, but commonly we normally use email address nowadays. So maybe you can use the email address because email address rarely changes, but people change their phone number quite often. So please, if you can, then use the email address for that. So just check if a person is trying to sign up and they're using this email, you should just give them an error message that this email address already exists in the database. So that's the assignment or challenge that I'm giving you. Please try it out, and if you are able to achieve it, let me know in the comment section. Of course, how to do it is very similar to how we've just checked this one here, and of course you'll have to use the MySQL num rows to check whether that data really exists in the database already, whether that email address exists in the email address already. So ladies and gentlemen, that is it about this lesson. So let's meet again in the next lesson and learn some more stuff. I hope you've enjoyed. If possible, please also on the comment section let me know of any concept that you've learned today that you found to be most interesting or most useful. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time. Keep watching so that we can learn this particular web programming together. Thank you very much. See you in the next video. Bye bye for now.